Well, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I really appreciate your time. My name is Matt Gilkerson. I manage programs for Trailhead. For those of you that don't know, Trailhead is a nonprofit organization aimed to help the creation, growth, and scaling of startups, fostering entrepreneurship in the city and state. We do that through a variety of different ways, including this program. Speaking of this program, this was started about 3 years ago, I believe, called Boise Pitch Night. Its goal and aim is to really just help foster a conversation around investing in startups in our ecosystem. So while, and I do want to say, while Trailhead does not invest directly, nor do we endorse, analyze, or recommend any pitch or any investment, we are simply bringing together the investment community and startups, folks that are in the early stage looking for investment. So with that said, the program itself has shifted and pivoted a lot in this last year. You may notice the name Boise Pitch Night is a slight misnomer at this point. However, we really have enjoyed bringing this to a digital platform and allowing pitches to be seen on a regular basis. This is something we do quarterly, and how today's going to work is basically we'll see 3 pitches back to back that I'll list off here in a minute, and then after every single pitch, which will be approximately 10 minutes, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. And so there's a few ways you can do that. There's the chat feature in the Zoom call, as well as you're welcome to just unmute yourself and ask your question in real time, and find that that's a good way to kind of answer and do any follow-up questions. With that, I'm going to run through real quick just the names of the pitches in the order that we're going to be seeing them today, and then we'll jump right into it. First off today, our first pitch today is Gabe Bentz with Slant 3D. It's Slant 3D is a high volume 3D printing service that allows startups and corporate clients to manufacture their products quickly and at scale without the cost of tooling. After that, we're going to see Mark Rodiguero with TitlePipe, which is a universal platform built for the real estate industry, bringing together people into a single platform. And last but not least, we have Alexis Rankin with Chillow. If that name rings a bell and you haven't seen their pitch, it's probably because you have heard that they won the most recent Boise Pitch competition at the end of October. So really excited to have Alexis and Chillow here this morning, where they review, rank, and endorse roommates on a really cool and innovative platform. So with that, I ask everyone to kind of mute yourselves, and we're going to invite Gabe to share his screen and start off with his first pitch this morning.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Gabe.
So as Matt said, I'm Gabe Bentz. I'm the founder and CEO of Slant 3D. At Slant 3D, what we're doing is using 3D printing to make manufacturing completely free for product creators and completely unlimited for the product consumers. So to just give a little bit of context here, this photo went viral on Reddit about 3 months ago. And if you were to read all the comments underneath that photo, you would have had everybody asking, oh man, where can I get this headphone stand, this Deadpool headphone stand? And then you would have also immediately found out that it was nowhere to be found. This was a 3D printed model created by an independent designer. He had made the one prototype to make a cool picture for his Instagram and had moved on with life. If this had gone into production, it would have been about 2 to 3 months before any customer would have ever seen the actual physical part. But we reached out to this designer, and within about 6 hours to a day of him first going viral on Reddit, this product was for sale online. And within about 3 days, it was arriving in people's mailboxes. A similar thing happened a couple months ago when the new Amazon Echo Dot came out. Again, public information came out, and then designers immediately created about 30 to 40 independent accessories for the Echo Dot that we then produced and shipped to people within about 2 to 3 days. In fact, we actually beat Amazon in delivering the accessory for the Echo before Amazon actually delivered the Echo itself in many cases. All of this is possible because all the designers have to do is create a 3D model of whatever gadget or widget they happen to be creating, and then basically just upload it. And then a consumer can purchase that physical part. It is grown and shipped to them within 1 day. There is no back end, no inventory, no big logistical setup that traditional manufacturing requires. It's completely digital. This gives us a huge advantage because not only do we not have all the logistics of getting a mold made in China, getting the part made, making sure it's good quality, getting it shipped over here, storing thousands of them in a warehouse and hoping they sell. All a designer has to do is upload the 3D model, and whether they sell 1 or 10,000 of that product, they will make money off of it and be profitable from the very start without any risk and without any large movement of capital in order to get started. This is a huge advantage because it is free to just email a model over and your product is now within distribution and manufacturing. The reason this is possible is because the largest 3D printer farm in North America is located in Caldwell, Idaho. In this printer farm, we've created completely custom machines, custom software. We control the material, we control the processes so that when a designer submits a 3D model, it is printed out on this farm. And since we have such a huge scale, currently able to produce about 10,000 parts per week, and that is growing every week, no matter what kind of supply demands come along, we can match traditional manufacturing in producing parts just in time for when people actually order them. So there is no inventory. A customer makes an order, a machine is activated, prints that order, and then it's thrown into a box and shipped to them. We're replacing warehouse shelves with 3D printers. So there's never any inventory. Our current factory out in Caldwell is still in the process of being built, but when complete, it will have 800 fully automated 3D printers operating 24/7, producing these types of parts for customers as they order the products off of our website. This puts us in contention for the $100 billion consumer plastics manufacturing market, which is a huge space to be playing in. And currently, less than 100 million is made of any type of 3D printed product at all. So there's plenty of room to expand into that. Currently, all of this is controlled predominantly by traditional manufacturing like injection molding. But since we make it, again, free for the designer and give the customer unlimited number of options, so long as designers can create new ones, we have a very big competitive advantage in this area. So the way it works today is currently there's about 6 million 3D printable models for products out on the internet right now on 3D model repositories like Thingiverse or My Mini Factory. If we wanted to, we could literally snap our fingers and have all of those onto our marketplace where customers could be purchasing them, purchasing the physical parts, but that's a very expensive marketing problem because you have 6 million products that need to be promoted and you can only focus on a few of them. So in order to buffer that a bit, we're accessing influencers who traditionally would go for a t-shirt to try to sell to their audience to monetize them. But instead, we can create a really customized product that's truly original for those influencers to then sell to their audiences, as well as promoting our website. But this is where it gets really interesting. Since we have this fully digital manufacturing process, as the site gains more information and we purchase more data about consumer trends and virality and the rest of it, over time, we'll be able to basically generate new products purely off of search terms. Rather than trying to fit a product into some kind of piece of marketing, you're instead fitting the product itself to whatever demands customers have. If somebody wants a Mickey Mouse head that's pink that has somebody's name engraved on it, that is something that we can create literally within hours and have available for the 20 people who care about it. And once we have all that data, we can start parsing through it to find the very best products that could be created. This is something no other marketplace or manufacturer has a physical capability to do because it's far too rigid and far too expensive to get started. And then over time, new startups and designers will continue to leverage the platform that we've built with their own products and solutions in order to allow more products to be created. But since it is a digital piece of work to create one of these products, an unlimited number of variations, attempts, and experiments can be tried with physical hardware in a way that has never been possible before. So currently, when a designer uploads a product to our website, they send us the 3D model. When it sells to a customer, the designer receives a 25% royalty on the sale of that product. And that will vary a little bit over time. But since we're operating such a high volume 3D printer factory currently, we have very good economies on material. And again, since the entire factory is very heavily automated, we have very efficient labor cost in the whole part of the process, because it's pretty much just somebody packing up a box for the most part. So currently we're maintaining an average gross margin of at least 20% on almost all of our products. So in the entire existence of Slant 3D, we have doubled every single year. Currently, we're going to finish out this year with more than $250,000 in revenue. We have been profitable from day one. In our first year, we kind of built out the technology, verified that we could build an automated print farm at this scale. And then throughout 2020, we have been verifying the business model as well as the social media marketing campaigns that we intend to use. And we were actually a big part of COVID response, which was also a good test for this system. Because as soon as the demand rose for face shields or a particular piece of hardware that did not exist, we were able to deliver product within days of the need arising within the local area where it happened. We ended up producing about 50 to 60,000 face shields and various types of products within a couple of weeks. So over 2021, we'll finish out our full factory here in Caldwell, and then out into the future, we'll be partnering with a few key companies who focus on like print on demand and that kind of thing to further expand our capability to produce merchandise and products perfectly on demand. So there's two components of competition to this. There is, of course, the marketplaces, who are always developing technology for better ways of distribution. And since we have a better means of distribution, because we don't have inventory or warehouses, we just have the part appear in a location with a 3D printer, these guys are going to be interested, particularly Amazon. They have messed around with 3D printing in the past. The benefit that we have is that since it's a manufacturing technology, it's very difficult to just throw $1 billion at it and solve the problems that come along, because they're slow and you have to go through experimentation to create physical stuff. So the iteration and the catch up, we have a time lead right now that money can't really solve, even for the big guys. It's experience, it's the technology, and the iteration and failures that have come over the last couple of years. In addition to this, the smaller kind of startup level competitors that we have are Gantry, which is doing print-on-demand lamps, and Teespring, which does print-on-demand merchandise for YouTubers. More likely, those two guys will turn into partners rather than competitors here, because we have very complementary capabilities and focuses there. So currently, my background is purely in engineering. I'm a robotics engineer. Over my career, I've worked heavily in industrial and product design on consumer robotics. I've designed and been on teams working on everything from the Microsoft smartwatch to Mars rovers and military robots. I've seen hundreds of products come to market and leave, and I've seen all the pain and struggle that comes from creating the product as well as getting it sold. So that's part of the reason I created this, is because it solves so many problems just for me in my past career. Caitlin Nance handles post-processing and part verification for us to make sure that any part that we're making is going out and is good. Tyler Blumfeld is building out our factories. He's in the head of making sure more machines are built every week to make sure that we're hitting the finish of our factory here in the next year. Wyatt Goodsight and Andrew Race are both BSU graduates of mechanical engineering, who are both developing more technology as well as working on product design. And we've got Kyle Peterson from Rectify Partners, a local business consultancy here, to both help us with social ads in partnership with me. So right now in this next year, we're planning on raising about a $400,000 round. The vast majority of that will go towards that social media marketing focused on Instagram and Facebook, because the cost per click there is very low. And with this huge breadth of products that we have, the ability to test and iterate through thousands of products quickly and efficiently is really ideal. Also, interest-based marketing is better than like a pay-per-click on Google. In addition to that, we'll be using some of that money to, again, build out the print farm, even though generally those machines pay themselves off in a couple of weeks, so it can be cash flowed. And then the remainder is for the miscellaneous things that come along. Manufacturing has always been exceptionally expensive just to get started. If you wanted to build a physical thing, you would better already be rich, because you would have to get molds and then ship the inventory over here, store it, and then hope you sell at the end of it all. Right now, we have made manufacturing completely digital. So not only is it free for a designer to manufacture and distribute a product, because it never exists until a customer buys it, but that digital nature gives customers infinite choice, because a designer can create 200 or 3,000 different variations of a product and then focus in on the ones that work. And this has never been possible before. It makes manufacturing completely free for the designers and unlimited to the consumers. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate your time and pitch.
Do you want me to stop the share of the screen here, or are we going to need that?
That's really your call. There may be questions related to specific slides. However, you're fine to unshare now, and you can jump back on if needed.
I'll leave it.
At this time, I'd like to open it up to the audience. If there's any questions from anyone, feel free at this time to kind of unmute yourself, or you could always enter that question in the chat feature. Glad to see Dr. Baskin on the call as well. Pretty interesting, and that multi-billion-dollar valuation of that 3D company Desktop Metal that just went public. Yeah, Gabe, it's really great to see the growth of your startup. It seems, just like the other day that we were hanging out at Trailhead and really seeing how you've been able to grow and build this manufacturing platform.
Hey Matt, it's Kevin Learned. I've got a question for Gabe.
Awesome, thanks, Kevin.
Gabe, I'm surprised that the margins are not higher. What makes up the cost of sales? The plastic? Is that what's so 80% of the cost of the product is plastic?
No. There's about a 20 to 30% cost in the actual marketing for the Facebook ads that we run on most of our products currently. And then that 25% cut that also goes to the designer. So we're making a 20% margin on basically 50% of the manufacturing cost of the part. So yes, that is lower for consumer products, but for print on demand, it's exceptionally high. And for plastics manufacturing, if you were to lump us in with injection molding, those guys are down at around 2%. So we're 10 times better than them, not quite as good as if we were just a straight retailer.
So a second question, if I may, which is the environmental consequences of all this plastic. Have you got a program to recycle the plastic after it goes out?
Since they're 3D printing as an additive process, there's much less waste than traditional manufacturing. So right now we're probably about 25 to 50% better in plastic consumption in producing a part than most traditional manufacturing. We're working on recycling right now, but that requires quite a bit more scale than what we currently have to make it viable.
So I mean, recycle, the parts get pumped out into the world, right? So what ends up happening to the parts when people are through with them?
They can be recycled generally through the normal means that anybody would recycle a plastic product. If you were to recycle your iPhone case or something, if anybody even does that.
But you don't intend.
No, we can't support. Not at this point. It can't be a focus for us because most of the plastic that we actually focus on right now is bio-based anyway. So the fact that we're so much more efficient already, to focus on the back end would be a cost that we just can't focus on at the moment when we're already doing a net positive over the traditional models.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin and Gabe. Any other questions? We do have one in the chat from Nathan asking just about a little more insight into how you've been funded to date.
For the first 2 years, it was all cash flow. Slant 3D has been profitable since day one. And since the machines are exceptionally efficient in producing parts, the capital expenses pay themselves off within a matter of weeks. So we've been able to cash flow up to this point. Part of this new batch of funding is already locked in with loans and some independent investor.
Awesome, thank you. I just entered into the chat to everyone a survey form if you wanted to, either in real time right now or after the pitches this morning. Just leave your comments. It's really for any accredited investors on the call that are interested in following up with any of the pitches that we see today, as well as following up with any questions if we don't have time to get to them. I'm going to throw one more at you, Gabe, from Margot, asking if you'll be able to supply small businesses with supplies. And Margot, feel free to unmute yourself if you have any more specifics on what type of supplies. And how, there you go.
Yeah, for example, like in my situation where I use trays, I use planting trays. Can you do that at an affordable price for small businesses?
I would say yes right now. In general, if we're comparing with traditional injection molded stuff, we're generally as affordable to produce that stuff as injection molding up to about 100,000 pieces. Then there's kind of a flip there. But in longer term thinking, since there's so much savings in warehousing and carrying costs, very often 3D printing is cheaper than injection molding always. So yes, the short answer is yeah.
And I think, Margot, it's sounding like there's a slight scalability to being able to produce stuff for like a supplies versus a more customizable type manufacturing. So hopefully that helps answer your question, and I'm happy to follow up after the call. All right. Thank you so much, Gabe. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and unshare, and then I'm going to invite Mark to share his screen with TitlePipe. I'm just going to be continually throwing that survey in there for folks to fill out, and please do that at your convenience.
Thanks, Matt. Can you see that?
Yep, it looks great. Thanks, Mark. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and get started.
Perfect. Hey, everybody. Today, I'm proud to be announcing TitlePipe. We create privacy through secure collaboration for the real estate transactions. We use patent-pending online SaaS technologies that are disrupting the Idaho market even as we speak. I'm Mark Rodegaro, and I'm the founding CEO. On the call today, we also have our Director of Operations, Brad Mazeral. Let's start with how a typical purchase transaction currently happens. A contract gets signed, and then 30 days later, a magical closing happens where documents get signed at the closing company. And we know it's a great transaction because we leave with a 3-inch stack of closing paperwork or some cute thumb drive. That would be great. Only the purchase price changed, and title didn't get the information, so the loan documents were delayed. And the real estate agent's transaction coordinator that was doing work from some coffee shop got hacked. So the email wiring instructions that were forwarded to the buyer actually directed their down payment to somewhere outside of the company. Yep, that's an example of real estate wire fraud. Well, that's bad luck for the customers, but it does happen. I'm here to say absolutely it happens. I've owned mortgage companies, processing centers, and have been a licensed real estate agent for 15 years. And I can tell you, everyone is trying to look calm, but behind the curtains, everyone's trying to discover who they're supposed to be working with, collecting information that is usually redundantly asked for by customers, and sensitive information is being tossed around insecurely using email. Details are getting missed all the way up until closing, and no one ever feels in control with the most up-to-date transaction information that they may have. The reality is that real estate transactions are complex. They involve a huge team of professionals coming together to complete possibly the most important transaction a customer will ever have. And if wire fraud or private information is compromised, everyone involved is at risk of a lawsuit. It's a well-known fact Email is not secure, period. Industry users have tried to implement encrypted email, but as soon as it's forwarded, it's no longer encrypted. When a customer gets asked to send their social security number or fill out a form with personal information, they do not encrypt that email they're sending it back in with. Client portals have been tried, but are typically one directional. And when it comes to agents or lenders being asked to log into 10 different company portals for information, it just doesn't happen. And we're back to square one with email. Email gets used because it's ubiquitous. Everyone has access, and it can be used independent of any of the industry participants' production environments. As a fun fact, escrow teams on average receive 700 emails a day, transactional emails a day. TitlePipe takes a different approach. We simplify the process of bringing everyone together and create an easy and secure way for participants to share the information they have with only the people that actually need it. This permission access is based on the user's role in the transaction and allows them to collaborate on documents, information, and instructions that are relevant to them. Now that changed purchase price we spoke about earlier gets monitored by everyone. If it's not right, anyone with knowledge can provide input, prevent that closing delay. Information is accessed instead of being passed, and everyone has real-time secure transparency in one location for the transaction. No more emailed wire instructions or social security numbers. No more, can you add my assistant to the email string? How about no more wire fraud? That's a big deal because the National Title Association, ALTA, listed real estate wire fraud as the #1 concern title companies have right now. As an additional fact, the current TitlePipe implementations that we have are reducing transactional email by 80%. Unlike current client portals, TitlePipe was designed to be a cross-transactional standard. As an agent, that means I don't care which title company is being used. I get to use an environment I'm familiar with to manage all of my transactions in one place. And likely, if I'm an agent on the go, I'm going to be using my phone. In addition, current methods of communication are serial in nature. As an example, if a lender or an assistant aren't known at the beginning, which is likely the case, they get missed on those initial or continuing communication strings. Serial strings are bad because they can promote delays caused by information being withheld until everyone can be added to those communication strings, or it creates a need to resend information that was already likely sent insecurely, this time for a second or third time. This is one of the leading causes of email overload in the real estate transaction industry, or real estate transactions. Discovery and inclusion of all the parties involved in the transaction can last up until the day of signing, and any information already passed is currently missed. TitlePipe allows retroactive access to these users. It's like being included on the email communication string right from the get-go. Instead of having to play catch up and asking for information from other parties that may have already sent it out, information gets provided once. And users don't have to worry about being missed on these strings or having to resend information to newly discovered participants. Our revenue model is fairly unique. It takes advantage of our knowledge of the space. All industry users are given full access for free. Buyers and sellers and refinancing borrowers are charged a nominal $50 fee per side of the transaction. This promotes adoption by the industry participants, providing a secure and interactive transaction experience to their customers. The fee gets added directly to the customer's closing statement. We get paid through settlement. And we're excited, after 2 years in development, we have live transactions being done today at our local Idaho market. Our revenue model is working and our users are engaging and reusing the platform. With that said, we're ready to amplify these results. We have recently brought development in-house and are looking to expand business development and marketing efforts. Using a focused marketing approach targeting the Western region, we are working to complete 10,000 transactions per month within 24 months. To do this, we're scaling our operations and looking for partners to be part of TitlePipe's success. We currently have a $1 million round open in which this investor secured the first $100,000. We have another $100,000 out for review as of yesterday and are willing to discuss equity, SAFE, or convertible note options. Once again, real estate transactions are complex. No other alternative brings all participants together for interactive collaboration. TitlePipe is the solution, and we're looking forward to answering any questions people may have today.
Thank you, Mark.
You bet, Matt.
All right, so feel free at this time to unmute yourself or throw some chats in the chat box.
Matt, it's Kevin Learned again. Mark, nice presentation. What will you say you're getting paid now? What will your revenue for 2020 be, and what's your projected revenue for 2021?
For 2021, we anticipate closing 1,750 transactions per month. We'll be short of 2 million. Oh, for 2020, you're saying?
Yes.
For 2020, we're in the early access phase. We'll be well under $3,000 of total income. We're at the we have not technically gone general availability on our launch. That has happened Q1 of 2021.
Thank you.
You bet.
Mark, could you share a little bit about what that launch is going to look like moving forward to 2021?
Yes, we've secured early access partners. We're heavily involved with our local Idaho markets, and I want to make sure that I'm answering your request appropriately. But we intend on doing our a live large digital marketing launch. Part of what makes our industry special to TitlePipe is it does have this issue with assistance, everyone involved clicking on things that they shouldn't click on, creating unnecessarily insecure environments. And because of that, there's a propensity to not click on things. It's our intent to create brand awareness as well as a call to action, which to get through some of those propensities not to click on things. If that resonates, we see it as a market effort that we've started and are going to need a decent amount of those funds in order to finish successfully.
Excuse me. So
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask, is that what you're saying is kind of a roadblock to getting people or companies interested by them not clicking on things?
I would say that it would be we're very aware that there is a lot of information going out about wire fraud. The current solution for the industry is to educate. There's no passive solution like TitlePipe, and so the active solution is to constantly educate the buyers and sellers about wire fraud and don't be clicking on things. And we haven't seen a significant amount of that as far as a barrier goes, but when we are getting into title and escrow companies, we are pre-sending images of what those invitations to TitlePipe look like. And it's more of a proactive approach rather than having to deal with it later. Great question.
Awesome. So we have another question here, just asking just a little insight into, you mentioned you brought your development all in-house, and what was the reasoning for that, and how's that process and transition been?
Yeah, I think as a technology or software company, bringing that competency in-house it was a must for us. We were able to reduce our costs and capture more of the developers' time, mind space, It's not a Sudoku product. It's fairly complex, and onboarding for any side of outside contractor becomes, difficult, and we don't have, we're not looking for any sort of delays with our product, and that's why we brought it inside.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Again, feel free to unmute yourself, or feel free to chat it in the chat box. I also had put that survey in there, so if you want to take a few minutes and fill those out, I would really appreciate it. And I know the folks pitching today would also appreciate any feedback, additional questions, and the like. So. Mark, one last question I have here, and I know you mentioned Brad, who's on the call as well on your team, but go into just a little bit, and you did in your presentation slightly, but just go into a little bit of the development of your team that is TitlePipe.
Yeah, I started the idea, I would say 12 years ago. And about 3 years ago, we started working on the user experience because nobody had solved the problem. A year or so later, Brad was working operations for another company, and we continued to bounce information off each other, and that's how Brad came into the mix. The developers that we brought in-house are local developers, so they sit right by us. We've engaged outside partners. At this point, I wouldn't necessarily share their names, but for gap consulting, and so on and so forth. We are a small team. There's currently 4 of us running running this race, and we're looking to grow that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And especially in Boise and Idaho, there's definitely a need to simplify this process. And again, appreciate your time this morning. And for everyone, for your thoughtful questions, and again for taking your time to fill out that Google form that I had shared out to the chat. With that, Mark, thanks so much. I'll ask you to unshare your screen, and we'll jump into this last pitch here, moving right along. I'd like to welcome Alexis to the virtual stage, if you will, and invite you to share your screen.
All right, thanks for having me here.
Absolutely, we're ready when you are.
Awesome. I'm going to be sharing my screen. Everyone's going to have to forgive me. I might get a little breathless. I just got done having COVID, and when I talk for long periods of time, I either cough or take a minute, so bear with me.
Absolutely, and glad to see and hear you're feeling better.
Yeah.
The whole Trello team and everyone on the call sends you their best.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, you guys. Well, let me first and foremost introduce myself. My name is Alexis Rankin. I am the CEO and co-founder at Chillow, the virtually safe roommate review platform. So essentially at Chillow, we're building a mobile application on iOS and Android, bringing roommate reviews to the roommate sector for the very first time, while also responding to the current pandemic by integrating virtually safe technologies, of which we'll jump into later into the pitch. Meet Jackie. Jackie is a 21-year-old college transferring from Midtown, Ohio to beautiful sunny San Diego State University. Jackie has traveled across country, and upon arrival in San Diego was responsible for all of her initial move-in cost of her new home. Now, Jackie met her future roommate, Sarah, on Craigslist, as many college students do today. And the first 3 months went fantastic until around month 4. When Jackie started noticing that Sarah was becoming more and more unreliable. That's when Jackie decided she needed a break and decided to take off on a relaxing 5-day-long vacation with her family to the Oregon coast, leaving her portion of the rent money with Sarah. After 5 long relaxing days, as Jackie returned home to her apartment and returned as she was walking up the stairs, she noticed a big red eviction notice hanging there. As Jackie fell to her knees in disbelief and opened the door, she realized that not only had Sarah taken off with her portion of the rent money and gone to Las Vegas, Nevada, getting them evicted from their apartment, she had also stolen some of her belongings in the process. To her dismay, Jackie realized she immediately had to terminate the lease and pay for all of the initial move-in expenses of an entirely new location. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Jackie, and this situation has legitimately happened to me. At Chillow, our beachhead market is college students. There's 24 million college students in the United States, of which 98% use social media. Of that 98%, 34.2% use a form of social media when finding their current roommate, leaving us with a total beachhead market at Chillow of over 8 million college students in the United States who currently live with a roommate and found that current roommate while using a form of social media today. However, our overall market size is much, much larger at Chillow, with over 133 million renters in the United States alone between the ages of 18 to 33 who currently are sharing their home. So the price for homeownership has increased over 55.9% over the last decade, forcing individuals to live together longer than ever before in history. The price for terminating a lease is at an all-time high, and people are agreeing to live with one another completely oblivious to what the experience will entail. There is no safe, easy, or affordable solution that currently exists today when finding a credible roommate. So here we are, March of 2020, and we're getting ready to launch on the iOS and Google Play Store on Android. And the current pandemic, COVID-19, strikes. So as the CEO, I decided to take a pause, and I decided to go back to the drawing board of essentially what our target market needed most, and to really find out, are these people still moving? And what we found was absolutely eye-opening. COVID, though extremely detrimental to the economy, has opened up an incredible opportunity for Chillow. According to Pew Research, more than 1 out of every 5 young adult Americans are moving in unprecedented rates, more than ever before in history. So what we realized was not only were people moving more frequently, they were actually needing different things now with their move, which was the ability to still connect with individuals, but stay safe while doing so. And in order to respond to this, Chillow actually integrated virtually safe technologies to allow people to do that. So our competitive advantage is simple. We've integrated those virtual safe technologies, so one of which are 3D virtual tours, to allow individuals to maintain 6 feet of social distancing and never actually have to share germs by going into somebody else's home, deciding if that's where they even want to live or not. They actually can view the property prior to even ever stepping foot, while also integrating in-app video conferencing calls within Chillow, allowing individuals to, practice social distancing, but also be able to connect and see if it's somebody they even actually want to consider living with. As I've previously mentioned, we are the first to bring peer reviews to the roommate sector for the very first time, allowing individuals to review, rank, and endorse one another based on past living experiences. We've also integrated Chillow Pay, a peer-to-peer payment platform, and always building Chillow with user friendliness in mind. So again, we're building a mobile application where users have the ability to stay safe and healthy using our virtual safe technology, review, rank, and endorse one another based on past living experiences, fill a bedroom or home with a credible tenant, and collect rent virtually, connecting our target audience nationally with the very intent of going global as well. So let's take a look at our top 4 competitors. Roomster, Roomie, PadMapper, and Craigslist, of which Craigslist still happens to be our largest competitor in this sphere by a landslide, with over 300,000 posts on the housing section alone every single day. However, for many of us who have used Craigslist, we know it can be completely unreliable. In fact, of those 300,000 posts, over 25% of them are considered fraudulent postings, leaving Craigslist with just an archaic messaging platform connecting people. While PadMapper has taken it a step farther, Roomie and Roomster would have to be our main competitors. But we take it 3 steps even farther than they do, with virtual safe technology, ACH payment opportunities, and of course, our novelty of reviews. So now that we're integrating the virtual safe technologies, we're getting ready to launch again on the Google Play and App Store in our 2 targeted markets, the San Francisco Bay Area and Boise, Idaho, in spring of 2021. So don't just take my word for how great and necessary this product really is. My partner and I have went around and interviewed well over 500 individuals within our target market who currently share their home, and the feedback was phenomenal. Over 98% said not only would they use the platform, but that they would pay for it. And let me tell you, almost every single one of them had a horror story with a roommate off of Craigslist. Meet my team. My name is Alexis Frank, and I'm the CEO and co-founder at Chillow. As the Executive Vice President at Keller Williams Realty Boise, part of the largest brokerage in the world, I have an understanding, as along with my Managing Director and co-founder Stephen Rankin, of the real estate market in all 50 states. Our CTO is in-house. Kenneth Black was actually solely responsible for building out BP's multi-million-dollar app last year. And Matt Kilroy is our head of marketing, responsible for all of our social media, targeted marketing, and SEO. So from freemium to premium, let's talk revenue. We've got 4 main streams of revenue, of which Chillow pays our continuous main. So we've got a matching service that we can charge $4.99 for, that based on lifestyle, location, and preferences. We're able to send over 20 different instant matches to potential roommates. You have the ability to boost your posts to the top of the search criteria. Of course, the ability to monetize through advertising space, and then Chillow Pay. So Chillow Pay is actually our continuous revenue platform. And those of us who have heard us pitch in past years actually will realize that this is a different business model for us of revenue. So what Chillow Pay is, it's the integration of a Venmo-like payment platform within Chillow. So it's called peer-to-peer. We connect landlords and tenants and essentially roommates alike on the platform, allowing them to send payments through the platform on a reoccurring monthly basis, whether that's for rent and or utilities, allowing us to collect $10 per user per month. So let's take a look at our 5-year financial projections. So Q4 of 2020 has been a springboard into our aggressive go-to-market launch in spring of 2021. Our go-to-market strategies include strategic partnerships, as well as market penetration strategies that will accelerate early user adoption. Our user downloads will have triple-digit growth year over year, while factoring in a customer conversion of roughly 5%, as well as attrition. This will result in Chillow breaking even at the end of year 2022, going from roughly 600,000 users on the platform to over 4.5 million at the end of 2025, all while factoring in the costs of growth to scale. And for those that are interested in our pro forma financial projections, we do have those that correlate directly with these 5-year financial projections as well. So you're probably thinking, okay, that sounds great. Tell me how you get there. Our go-to-market strategies are well thought out and effective. So partnerships, as I've previously mentioned, mainly with colleges, keeps our cost of customer acquisition down to partner. And we are actually already in conversation with BSU currently, as well as CWI here locally, and several Northern California colleges in our target launch market in spring. We also plan to target users through the major housing sites, and of course, social media marketing and search engine optimization. We are raising a Series A of $2 million and plan to spend that money accordingly. 50% towards targeted marketing, 20% towards search engine optimization, 10% towards operations, 15% towards maintenance of development, and 5% towards legal fees. Help us at Chillow revolutionize the shared housing market and make it a safe place for the first time. Thank you. Excuse me.
Thank you so much, Alexis.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it was always great to see your pitch. Again, I was able to see, and a lot of folks saw you at Boise Startup Week, and so yeah, just really awesome to see and hear you again, and look into the future. So feel free, anyone, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourselves at this time. We'll go into this last round of questions for Alexis.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, so I have a couple here. One being just what do you see as like your biggest obstacle right now in getting to what you just kind of laid out in front of us in the future of Chillow?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. The biggest obstacle is probably just maintaining development. We've bootstrapped, so we own the entire company. We've bootstrapped this for the last 2 years. So obviously, financing has always been a challenge, but we're right at that kind of end point. So as far as obstacles go, it's integrating all of these new, innovative, essentially virtually safe technologies in prior to launch in spring.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm curious while we're waiting for some questions. Could you share with me a little bit about like your experience pitching as you've developed this deck? And it sounds like it's changed in the last year.
Mhm.
You know, of course, heavily involved. Trailhead, you know, helps put on Boise Startup Week, and heavily involved, and just always curious to learn through folks that pitch at our various events. So if you could just share a little bit about that experience and kind of what you've learned up until this point at a high level, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely learned that it's, I view it more as a monologue and not a pitch. So I always recommend people just memorize it. And then, yes, it changes frequently, right? Where it used to say we were launching here, now it's here. When we integrated Chillow Pay, you know, there's different slides, and just be open to, like, at least from my experience, definitely being open to memorizing it and then making little changes where it's necessary. And I've always had a really great experience pitching with Trailhead, Boise Startup Week, Investors Choice last year. It's always been a really great experience. So yeah, and we're really grateful for it. We've made some really great connections. And I would just say for those that are thinking about pitching or already pitching or looking on working on their pitch, to just push forward and memorize it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alexis.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that insight. One question we had here is, have you ever considered an exit and what that would look like for Chillow? Who would you want to purchase?
Yeah, great question. So we started Chillow with the end in mind. We're really passionate about solving the problem, but the exit strategy and acquisition has always been a priority and always being built accordingly to scale. So yes, we've thought about it. Yes, we know exactly who we're targeting. So we're essentially targeting to be acquired with a goal of 5 to 8 years by Zillow. It didn't necessarily have any reason why we picked Chillow for the actual name itself, but we do vision this app as being essentially the go-to for collecting renting data, people who are renting and will be, you know, the average is 15 years now for people to rent. So we're going to be able to acquire a ton of user data. And that's really, really valuable to companies like Zillow, Trulia, things of that nature, Keller Williams, right, as a whole. And I'm in that and have been in that sphere for the last 10 years. And so as my co-founder and partner. So we really understand that, you know, the real estate as a whole and that market, and we're tailoring it for an acquisition from a large company that's interested in essentially rental user data.
Awesome. So yeah, you've clearly thought about that. All right. Couple more here just because we have a few more minutes.
Sure.
Have you done or included any research around the dangers, safety concerns with rooming with unknown or unfamiliar roommates?
Yeah, we've done a lot of we've done a lot of research in the sense that not only have we personally lived with over 20 roommates, my partner and I are from the Silicon Valley area, and so we grew up with roommates for over 10 years. When we moved here, it was to bootstrap this company, and so we actually, from personal experience, whether it was a known past, you know, friend of a friend or somebody off of Craigslist, we've really essentially lived with so many different people because the cost of living there is so expensive. So we do understand the dangers and the unknown, and that's essentially how this idea was born. That story about Jackie is truthful. That really did happen to me. And that was actually my first roommate experience with living with a friend of a friend. So there's a lot of unknown dangers. Yes, actually, interestingly enough, we're speaking to an investor right now whose son's best friend was potentially going to live with somebody who murdered somebody else. And if he didn't take the initiative to background check them on his own, he necessarily wouldn't have known. And what's interesting is we're making that easy for individuals now who want to identify and do an identity check and verification as well as background check all in one place. Less than 2% of people will actually take the initiative to background check or ID check somebody else prior to them living with them. And the reason, in my belief and from the research that we've done, is because it's difficult to do. And there's so many different platforms that you don't know if you're really getting accurate data, or where are you going to go to get that that's actually real, so there's a lot that goes into it. And so by being able to provide it all in one place, essentially it's a roommate review platform, but it's also creating a roommate resume, if you will, so that you can actually go ahead and see what it was like to live with somebody else. Because everybody gets on the platform, whether it's Craigslist or whatever platforms are available now, and says how great they are. But no one allows you the opportunity to say, hey, yeah, they were great, but they also were not clean at all. So if that's important to you, you may want to think twice about living with that person.
So in the sense of it being a roommate resume, I mean, that makes perfect sense. But are you also going to be offering some ability to do the background checks through Chillow, or is that something that maybe that you're going to just focus on educating people about?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so they do. We partnered with a third party that's really reputable called Evident ID. And they actually are the third party that run all background checks and ID verification checks within Chillow. So people can, yes, they can request a background check on someone else and then receive that, cleared or not. And then they can also run a background check on themselves, where they'll actually receive a cleared background check badge and or ID check verification badge that actually correlates with their profile, so that when people are scrolling through to find their next credible roommate, they can see if they've passed a background check or not. And you can do that right within the platform already.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you, Alexis, and thank you, Elle, for that question. If there's not any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and send this survey again in that chat. And yeah, I want to thank all the folks that pitched today. I really appreciate your time. It's great to see some of you again after hearing pitches recently. So thank you all so much for your time. Again, Boise Pitch Night is an event that's aimed to bring together the investment community as well as folks that are in the startup world looking for potential investment and to grow. We do have an event coming up next week that I wanted to shout out. It's an Ask Me Anything with our executive director, TM Rostigar. And so I'm going to also throw into the chat a link for both to register for that as well as to submit those questions. I think we have one last question just because we're a couple minutes till 10. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute yourself and feel free to ask that question.
Yes, thank you. I'll try and make it as quick as possible. Hello, my name is Sidian. I'm a high schooler at One Stone. I'm just kind of here because I'm entering this kind of business pitch competition, and I'm trying to learn from some people that are doing this already. And my question is, have you been met with any resistance on your review, like your roommate review kind of aspect of your app?
Yeah, great question. We have, absolutely. And so what we've actually been challenged with is for slander. And opening up a platform essentially to allow individuals to say without any sort of vetting. So we have a great legal team at Stoll Reeves that helps us not only write up our terms of conditions and privacy usage agreements that every single person who downloads the app has to agree to prior to using the app. We also we've also kind of essentially what we've done is we've created a vetting process for the reviews themselves to make sure that they are in fact accurate, and that we give people the opportunity to essentially challenge them if they're not. And then we also don't just open the platform like Yelp does to say whatever somebody is feeling or would like to. We actually allow them to, out of 5 different endorsements, we allow them to review off of each of those based out of a 5-star review rating. So if one of them being a perfect example is clean. If the person is not clean, they can review them on 1 star out of the 5, but we don't open the forum to allow anybody to say what anybody wants to say. And Nick, I saw another question come in that says, can reviews be anonymous? No, they cannot be anonymous. And that's part of the vetting process.
Awesome. Yeah, great question. And appreciate you. And Sidian, and for anyone else, I threw my email in there as well. If you're ever interested in learning more about opportunities to pitch, whether it's at events like these, which are more geared towards investment, or a variety of competitions and events that we work with a variety of different partners, including, you know, the universities, Boise State, and organizations like One Stone. So thanks for joining in, and good to see you all. Thank you so much, Gabe, Mark, and Alexis, for taking time, and thank you everyone for jumping on the call. Hope you have a great week, and hopefully I'll see you on our event next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.